So before we start, a quick introduction about myself. This is Praveen Kumar Sriram. I have around 20 years of experience into various Microsoft technologies. Last 8 to 10 years, 8 9 years, I'm into Azure. Okay. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer, and I also authored some books, and then few of my certifications, and then I worked on various different projects for various organizations, right from cloud native applications, modernizing end-to-end DevOps, database migrations, and ETL analytical projects as well. And in my free time, I also do community contributions, wherein I write blogs and I also create content in YouTube, and I also talk about Azure in some conferences as well. Okay, and because of all these contributions, a community website called C# Corner has awarded me MVP. So I'm a C# Corner MVP. That's a quick intro about myself, and let's get started. Today our topic is introduction to infrastructure as code using Bicep. Okay. So before we talk about Bicep, let's understand what are the various options that we have to work with Azure. Right? If you have attended few of my previous events, we learned about what is cloud, what is Azure. Okay, so today we are going to learn about a topic called infrastructure as code. So before we learn about that, we first need to understand what are the ways in which you can manage Azure. Okay. Obviously, first one is Azure Management Portal. So this is a website from Microsoft Azure team, and anybody can use it. All we need to do is we need to have an account, and then we can get started creating Azure resources. For example, we can create a server. Okay, so maybe I will show you in the portal. So you see, these are all various Azure resource groups. If I click on them, it will contain different resources. So this is an easy one for anyone. I mean, this is an easy way for new people to start learning Azure. Unfortunately, this is not a best practice that people should use in real world scenarios. Okay, in real world scenarios, portal must be used only for view only purpose. Okay, so portal is the easiest way to learn things. Okay, so let's get over to PowerPoint slides. The other options are automation. One of them is Azure CLI, PowerShell. Okay, so using this, we can write commands or code which can be used to create Azure resources. The first one is portal. Using this, we can create Azure resources like servers, database, website, storage, right, for storing files. So we can do all this with portal as well as these two technologies. Okay, but very common one in the industry that people follow is something called as IAC. IAC stands for infrastructure as code. That means we will write code which creates infrastructure. Okay, so today we are going to learn about this very specific thing called IAC. And of course, this IAC depends on Azure CLI. So we are going to write some commands related to Azure CLI. We are going to install the required software as well. Okay, but end of the day, all these four different technologies internally make use of something called as REST APIs. So this REST APIs are also called as management APIs. So basically, all the core functionality of creating resources in the cloud is within this. Okay, and these are all kind of clients which call APIs by passing some information. So these REST APIs will know how to interact with Microsoft data centers. Okay, so don't worry about all this. If you don't understand this, that's fine. Because today our focus is on IAC. And there are multiple technologies in IAC. Let's first understand what is IAC. Okay, and guys, if you have any questions, please unmute yourself and you can ask questions. Don't hesitate to unmute. Okay, all right. So what is IAC? The full form is infrastructure as code. Okay, so now using this IAC, what we can do is all the provisioning means creation, and updations is also called as managing it. So provisioning and management of infrastructure is done via code. That means you can create servers, you can create databases, and you can also update their settings. All that can be done via code. Okay, now because it is a code, the people who write code are also kind of engineers. So in real world, people, there are different roles that people use. Some people call them as platform engineers, some people call them as DevOps engineers, right? Depending on situation, people use different terms, right? Definitely there is code involved in um, these roles, platform engineer or DevOps engineer. But don't worry, when I say code, it's very simple code, human readable code, and there are tools which will generate that code very easily. All you need to do is you just need to understand how to make modifications to that code. That's it. So very soon I'm going to write code. In fact, I'm going to generate the code and modify the code as per our needs. It's very simple. Okay, all right. So now you understand IAC. So what are various popular IAC tools? There are quite a few popular tools, but from Microsoft we have um, ARM templates. This is the first technology that Microsoft had. This is a little complicated. Um, it was not easy for new people to learn. Okay, and there was a competitor. Okay, for ARM templates, which is called as Terraform. Terraform is very popular in the market, in the industry, cloud industry, and this is a tool. This was a tool uh, from a company called HashiCorp, and very recently, I think 2 weeks or 4 weeks back, IBM acquired Terraform. So now Terraform is an IBM's product. Okay, and this Terraform is very popular because Terraform can be used with Azure, AWS, GCP, everywhere. It can be used in all various cloud platforms. In fact, you can use Terraform even for on-prem infrastructure provisioning as well. Okay, so this is very popular. At the same time, it is very simple to learn. Okay, in my personal view, Terraform is very easy than ARM templates. So I would say Microsoft has copied the idea. This is my personal opinion. Okay, and they have come up with something called as Bicep. So this is a technology. This is very simple, which is very similar to Terraform. Terraform has some complexities in terms of the way it works, but Bicep is very simple. Okay. Now going forward, this again, Bicep is a product from Microsoft. So now Microsoft recommends us to use Bicep, not ARM templates. This is now old technology, but feel free, you can use ARM templates or Bicep. So today we are going to focus on Bicep. Okay. So now what is Bicep? Microsoft says it's domain specific language for provisioning Azure resources declaratively. The reason why this term is called declaratively is we will not write complex code. It's very simple kind of instructions that we provide. So now Bicep is a kind of wrapper which sits on top of ARM templates. Okay, technically it's not a wrapper. So let me explain what this means. Microsoft Azure only understands ARM templates. Now what is ARM templates? It's a code. It's a JSON code. If you never heard about JSON, it's very simple. A message, okay, which contains some values. We all know Excel, right? Let's say you want to, let's say there is a teacher, right, who want to manage the marks of all students in all subjects. What do? They create an Excel sheet, right? They put the names, right, roll numbers, marks in subject one, subject two, blah blah blah, right? It's all data which is in a tabular format, correct? So that's for us people. So Excel is not lightweight. So like how we can maintain data in Excel, similarly JSON can also be used to maintain that kind of data in a lightweight fashion. So ARM templates is nothing but set of values, that's it, right? So now whenever we write bicep code and submit to Azure, basically Azure doesn't understand bicep, it only understands JSON, which is ARM template. So bicep code is written by people like us, and when we run the code, it will be converted into ARM templates, and ARM templates is sent to Azure. Azure understands that, and it will work based on the instructions that we have submitted in the form of ARM templates. So this process is called as transpilation. So whenever we write bicep code and submit it, it is transpiled into ARM templates and finally submitted to Azure. When I say Azure, it's ARM engine. ARM means Azure Resource Manager Engine, basically a component in cloud which creates Azure resources. Okay, bicep is very simple, crisp, human readable code than ARM templates. ARM templates has a lot of code. I will show both in the upcoming slide. You understand how what is ARM template and what bicep looks like. So anything that can be done with ARM templates can be done with bicep. So bicep is pretty new, hardly 2-3 years old, but ARM templates since day one, maybe 10-12 years. Since 12 years, ARM templates is being used by Microsoft Azure and all the people who use Azure. Okay, all right. So anything that is done with ARM can also be done with bicep. So now let's see an example of how bicep code looks versus how ARM template looks. So I copied this from a tool called Bicep Playground. Okay, in the left hand side, this is bicep code, which is basic hello world program. In the right hand side, corresponding ARM template. Okay, so now I'm not saying ARM template will always be so much, almost 27 lines, and corresponding bicep code is hardly 3 lines, right? No, it's not always true, but in this example it has a lot of code, but the number of lines is slightly decreased in bicep. However, the complexity you see here, you see there are curly braces here, everywhere there are curly braces, square brackets here, and then all of a sudden again square brackets, normal brackets, again curly braces, right? So many complex things. So you see here, this line number 24 is very complicated, right? Somewhere you see double quote, somewhere you see single quote. 0, 1, nobody understands what this means. Somewhere here you see variables, parameters, right? It's all simplified in bicep. Line number 5 is equivalent to line number 21 to 24. All this together is in one single line, especially this value, right? Format, blah blah blah. So all this is just this hello, your name, that's it. All you need is put it in the syntax. I'll explain. We are going to write this code very soon. So what I'm saying is it is very crisp to understand. Another example is line number 11 to 15. All this is minimized into one single line here. Again, line number 17 to 19, 3 lines is just one single line. Okay, no double quotes, only single quote and dollar sign and curly brace. Okay, so bicep is very crisp. So we will start working on this, but before that we need to start we have some prerequisites like Azure Bicep setup. We need to install some softwares, right? So let's understand what are the prerequisites to get started. So anybody who want to learn Azure Bicep, they first need to install Azure CLI. It's a free tool. Whatever tools I am going to install now are all free from Microsoft. Okay, they are all open source. So Azure CLI is the first software that we need to install, and of course Bicep CLI must also be installed. Okay, and once these two are installed, we need to start writing Bicep code. So now Bicep code can be written. Okay, these are the URLs. And how do we write Bicep code? With the help of a tool called VS Code, which is Visual Studio Code. Okay, so once we write code using this, then we need to execute it, right? So how do we execute Bicep code? There are two ways. We can execute it using Azure CLI commands or PowerShell commands. I prefer using CLI. So we are going to learn how to run Bicep script using CLI. Okay. Apart from this, we also will be installing an extension for VS Code. The extension name is Bicep. So basically this Bicep extension will generate the code automatically. Okay, it will help, it will save a lot of our time. Okay, let's get started. I'll go back. So prerequisites is first Azure CLI and then Bicep CLI, right? We need to start working with Azure CLI first. Okay, so I have created a server, plain vanilla server. It doesn't have any softwares except browser. So this is a server that I created inside Azure. It's a Windows machine. So let's first download Azure CLI. I'll go to google.com. Download Azure. Oops. Okay. Download Azure CLI. Click on the first link. And there are multiple ways of installation. Maybe I'll use MSI 64-bit. Straightforward installation. So while this is running, I'll show you how to run Azure CLI commands. Looks like it got disconnected. Yeah. Go to command prompt. So basically Azure CLI commands can be executed from command prompt. Okay. So how do we execute Azure CLI commands? All commands start with AZ. Okay. Hit enter. Now it says AZ not recognized because it is not yet installed. Obviously that is expected, correct? So let me minimize. Now the installation is in progress. It should be done in next 10-15 seconds. Yes, it is done. Okay. So now let's run the command again one more time. Again it says it's not recognized because we have opened this command prompt before Azure CLI installation. So close this and open it one more time. Basically you should restart the command prompt. Okay. Now if you issue the command AZ, hit enter, it will give us help. See, so now you see all the commands, all the Azure CLI commands along with description. That means Azure CLI is installed successfully. Okay, we'll come back to this. So the next thing is we need to run install Bicep. Okay, so I hit AZ, right? This is my command, and then it says welcome to Azure CLI, blah blah blah. So now these are all various base commands of Azure CLI. So now what is our focus? Our focus is on Bicep. So now I'm going to run some commands. I don't remember anything. You don't have to remember anything. This help will take us through. Okay. So what is that we need to do? Bicep, correct? So I don't know any bicep commands. So let's learn how to know them. Okay. CLS is to clear the screen. AZ bicep, and I want help -h. Please, can you please go on mute if you don't have any questions? Thank you. Okay. So AZ bicep -h. H stands for help. Hit enter. So now you see these are all specific commands or sub commands within Bicep. So what is that we want to do? This is the first time we are working with Bicep, right? So we need to install Bicep. So there is a command called install. So AZ bicep install. That's it. Now you see v0.27 is the latest Bicep CLI version. So now Bicep software is installed. It's as simple as it is. So you don't have to remember all this. Only understand that AZ is the starting command for any Azure CLI, and then based on what you want to do, sub commands will automatically come up, and if you don't remember them, you can take help. This will give us the required description as well. Okay. Yeah. So we have installed Azure CLI and Bicep CLI. So what's the next thing? The next thing is we need to start writing Bicep code. So where do we write Bicep code? We can use a tool called, again, let's go to Google and then download VS Code. So download Visual Studio Code for Windows. Yeah, it's installed now. Now this is also very straightforward installation. And ensure that these are checked, because that will help us in quickly opening the files in VS Code. So that's it. So we installed Azure CLI and Bicep CLI. With those we can run commands, but VS Code is the editor for writing Bicep. So it's not just for Bicep, you can write PowerShell code, .NET, Java. It helps for almost all technologies. It's open source. Okay. So now let's close all this. So now this this VS Code can be used for authoring the code. Okay. So in any real-time world, obviously we'll have to create a folder structure. I'm going to create the same thing. Folder projects. Inside this, our project name, maybe it's Bicep. Okay. So now I'll close the VS Code and I can open this folder in VS Code. Yeah, I'll trust the authors, and we are going to start creating our code in Bicep. But before that, let's go back to PowerPoint slides. So we are done with the CLI, Bicep CLI, and we installed VS Code, and then we need to execute Bicep script. Of course, we did not write Bicep code yet. We will look at Azure CLI to run Bicep code, but before that we need to install extension called Bicep extension. Okay, there is an extension in VS Code for Bicep. VS Code is very lightweight. You can decide what tools to install. right now it is plain vanilla VS Code. Now our goal is to work with Bicep. So we have to install Bicep extension. You see currently nothing is installed, it's 0. And tomorrow if you want to work with Python, you can install this. Or you want to work with C++, you can install this. If you want to work with Java, there will be some other things that are there. So for everything, extensions are available for VS Code. Okay, so our requirement is to work with Bicep. So search for it. There are a couple of items, but choose the one which is from Microsoft. So click on install. In another 5 seconds, installation will be complete. Yeah, it is done. Okay, so you can collapse by clicking on this, and you can expand the Explorer. Currently we are in Bicep folder. Now I want to get started with writing code. So you can provide any name, but in general the practice is people create main.bicep. Bicep is the extension for writing Bicep. Okay, so I'm going to write hello world program first. Okay, so and our requirement is to output hello world, right? In order to output something, we need to use outputs. Output a greeting, and the output value is of type integer, string. It's a text, right? So text will be stored in string variables. So this is an output parameter where I want to say hello world. That's it. Okay, so now there is a white circle here, right? That means it is not saved. So go to file, save it, and now we need to execute this, correct? So in order to execute, we need to open terminal. You can click on this, or by default a terminal will be available. Go to the bottom, and the moment you see this kind of cursor, just drag and open this. A terminal is available by default. So here, in order to run this, basically you cannot directly run this. Bicep is meant for deploying code to Azure, right? So we have to deploy this code to Azure, then only it will show us the output. So how do I run this? How do I deploy this to Azure? Okay, so first of all, Azure, here I'll go to portal. So Azure is secured environment, right? So now this is the URL of Azure Management Portal. When I want to log into Azure Management Portal, it asks me login from the browser. So only when I give username password, it allows me to view all my Azure resources. I need to provide username and password. Okay, so similarly, now browser is asking me username password. Similarly, there should be a way to authenticate this VS Code. VS Code can also talk to Azure, but before talking, it should log in first. So Azure CLI can help us. Every command start with AZ, right? So AZ login. That's it. Hit enter. It opens up a browser. Because I am already logged in the same browser in the previous tab, right? So it knows that you have logged in with this account. Do you want to proceed with the same account? Yes. Click on this, and it won't ask me password, and you see it went to localhost, and you have logged into Microsoft Azure now, and you can close this window. Now if I go back to Azure, if I go back to VS Code, it is trying to connect to Azure, and it is trying to pull all my Azure subscriptions or Azure accounts. It takes some time. Yeah. So this is the Azure account that I am connected to now. So that means authentication is completed from this VS Code terminal. Now I can start deploying Azure Bicep code using Azure CLI. And we know every Azure CLI commands with AZ, right? So now what do we want to do? We want to do a deployment, right? So here, let's go back to command prompt to learn how to do a deployment. Of course, I can do it terminal as well, but I will do it here. Maybe I will increase the font size. This font. Okay. So what is that we want to learn? We want to do a deployment. So there is a command called deployment. Again, space -h. I want to know how to do a deployment. So -h, hit enter. So these are the commands. Now it says, where do you want to do a deployment? These are all various hierarchy. In the last session we discussed about, in the last event we discussed about some things. We learned about subscriptions, we learned about resource groups. Okay, so most of the deployment happens in resource group. Group means resource group. Okay, so we want to do a deployment inside a resource group. Now what is a resource group? Basically I will explain you that. In Azure, everything is a resource. If I go to all resources, you see these are all various Azure. This is a database. This is a VM. This is an IP address. Okay, this is a virtual network. This is a hard disk. Everything is a resource here. Now, in order to segregate or group all this, we have something called as resource groups. Right now, I have quite a couple of resource groups. In real world, you can create one resource group for every project, one resource group per environment. One for dev environment, one for testing, one for production, right? Like that, you can create as many environments as you want. Okay, for each environment you can create one resource group. So here I am going to create a resource group for our Bicep. Maybe Bicep is your project name. RG means this is a type of this particular thing. Okay, so click on create. See here, earlier I said you should never create resources from the portal, but I am creating it from the portal, which is a bad practice. You can create resource groups also from Bicep. That's also possible, but for now I'm just creating a resource group from the portal, because for every environment you will create resource group only once. So resource group is created and it's empty, there are no resources. Okay, so now we need to start doing deployments to this resource group. Of course, even hello world program also we need to deploy that into resource group, and all the deployments can be seen here. Right now there is nothing because we just created it, right? So now let's do the deployment. So easy. Okay, we need to learn this, right? So let's learn it here. So easy. What do you want to do? We want to do a deployment to a resource group, and I don't know the command, right? So easy, first we should give main group, easy deployment, and then subgroup. Easy deployment space subgroup, and after that I don't know what needs to be done, so -h. So we should this command, and it is giving us sub commands. So what is that we want to do? We want to create a deployment, right? These are all various other commands, but we want to create a new deployment. So again, I don't want to write every time, so what I can do is I can use up arrow. This is what we give, right? So let me remove this. So we want to create a deployment. Okay, and then after this I don't know, so we have to provide -h for help. Either you can use -h, it's a shortcut, or you can use double hyphen and then help. Both are same. Now you see it gave a lot of examples. If we scroll down, these are all examples, but these are all arguments or parameters. There are so many parameters that it accepts. I'm moving fast because there are so many things. Okay, So otherwise, this is the command, complete command. AZ AZ deployment group create. This is the command, and these are all inputs or arguments that we need to pass to this command. Okay. So now some of them are required, many of them are not required. Now you see, this is required. A resource group is required. So this is full name of the argument, and this is a shortcut. Similar to what we have done -h or --help, right? If it is shortcut, 1 dash. If it is full name, then double dash. And for after every word, single dash. Okay. So resource group is required. I will use -g. And then what is required? You can check here. This is not required, not required. Yeah. Only resource group name is required. As you can see here, this is an example. Is deployment group -- resource group. This is resource group name. Okay, and then we also need to provide the name of the file. Okay, so somewhere it should be here. File name or name. No, not this is deployment name. Okay, but file name should be there somewhere. This is parameters. Yeah, template file. This is important. Okay, though it is not required, we have to provide that. Okay, so let's now go here. Our command is AZ deployment group create -g. We need to provide the resource group name. That's mandatory. So what is the resource group name? AZ Bicep RG. Correct. AZ -bicep -RG. And then where is our code? -f. -f means this is a file. Main.bicep. This is what we have to provide. This is the entire command. Okay. So this is we are using Azure CLI command prompt, right? So this main.bicep is not in this path. So if I hit enter, it will throw an error. So main.bicep doesn't exist here. So it throws an error. So let me copy this. Control C, I'm pressing Control C, and it says main.bicep could not be found, right? So obviously that's expected. So our main.bicep is located inside bicep folder. So we are in the context of bicep folder. So now I'll paste it. Okay. And now let me hit enter. That's it. So now what happens is this main.bicep file is converted or transpiled into ARM template. And that ARM template is submitted to Azure Resource Group. So if I refresh this here, there is a deployment that happened. So the name of the deployment is main because main.bicep is a file name. If I open this, it shows us the template. Template is nothing but the code. Now this template code is shown in ARM template. We did not write this code. Our one line of code, which is this output greeting string blah blah blah, is converted into ARM templates. ARM template. So and then this is submitted to Microsoft Azure. And Microsoft Azure will give us output called hello world. Okay. So that's a very simple example. Now let's write something meaningful. Obviously, hello world is not what you do in real world, right? So let me see if I can increase the font. Control Shift plus, I guess. Yeah. Okay. Now it should be good. Okay. All right. So let's create a website. I want to show you how easy it is to write code because of this extension called Bicep that we installed. Right? We installed Bicep code, right? Bicep extension. So when we install Bicep extension, it also installs a dependency .NET install tool. but Bicep is our main tool, which we already installed. Now I want to create a website in Azure. So all we need is um, you see res resource web app. We want to create a web app, so select this. That's it. It creates a website. Okay, before website creation we first need a server. I deleted it. So now in Azure a server is called as app service plan. Just type plan. It gives, you can either choose this or this, both are same. Okay, just select this. That's it. It created all the code for us that can be used for creation of an app service plan. App service plan is basically a server for creating websites. And you see it is asking us to change this 1, 2, 3. I will leave the default one. Maybe I will change this as per our naming convention, Azure Bicep. So basically AZ means Azure, Bicep is our project name, and app service plan 1. Okay, and then location. We want to create a server in east to west. That's it. So this code is all given by the tool, and it's our responsibility to change the values. Okay, so this is server. Now we need to create web application. So again type web app, select this, and we're done. So now it is asking us change this, and this. Okay, so here AZ Bicep web app 1. This is east to west, and this is tags are not required, so I'm going to delete it. And this is parent ID. Server form means your app service plan. So the ID, basically this web server and this is a website, both must be linked, right? They are parent child, so we need to provide the server form ID dot id. That's it. So these are kind of changes that we need to make. You have to learn these things only. Rest of all the code is generated automatically for you, and we're done. So now we need to run this same command, up arrow. Maybe I will clear the screen and press up arrow. So AZ deployment group create, provide the resource group, and then file name, and hit enter. So it will first validate the code. If everything is valid, then it starts submitting the code. So now there are 2 resources that will be created. I'll refresh. You see it is deploying. It will take some time, at least 30-40 seconds. Click on main again. Now the template is different. Earlier the template was different. Now you see the template. It submitted 2 resources. Resource 1 is server form, which is nothing but the web server, and the resource 2 is website. So we don't have to learn all this complex syntax. Bicep is very simple. Okay, and if we go back to overview and see, both are submitted, app service plan and app service, and now the deployment is completed. If I go back to VS Code, here also it says it returns us some JSON. It's all JSON. You don't have to understand all this. You never have to. Okay, because same thing is shown even here. Now click on resource group. Go to resource group button. Now you see both of the resources are created. Now I can browse the web application. Copy it and start accessing it. You see, it's as simple as it is, and a simple HTML page is also available to us. Now developers will write the code in .NET, Java, and then they can deploy, or we can also help them in creating automated pipelines to deploy their code into this web application. Okay, so now what did we do? We created a resource group for dev environment, and then we ran the code and it is deployed. Similarly, in real world, you will have multiple environments, right? So for every environment, you will have to create a resource group. So let's say this is for dev. Let's assume this is for dev. Now let me create one for QA. QARG. Copy this. I'll copy it. So now QA team also needs same resource groups. I mean same resources. So go here, clear the screen, and just change the resource group name and hit enter. That's it. Now this same code will be submitted into QA. It will work, but it will throw an error because web applications are unique across the globe. You cannot have same web application in two web applications with the same name. That's not possible. So we have to put QA here. QA here as well. Save it and run it. Now you see both resources will be created in QA environment as well. So that's the power of automation. In real world, you will not just have two resources, you will have hundreds of resources, maybe 200, 300, 500. Now if you go to QA, deployments, one is getting deployed. First app service plan is submitted. Only after this is completed, then only child will be created. Another 10 seconds, it will be done. So new name is taken here. Yeah. Second resource is also created. Now you can go to resource group, QA resource group, and we can see both of them. It takes some time to refresh the cache. And the second service will also be shown here. Okay. So think about, we just create two resources, but in real world, there will be hundreds of resources. Now, nobody remembers all the changes, right? The way it works is first, today I ran, just now I ran the resources in dev as well as QA, but in real world, you will not create all environments at once. For any new project, first, you'll work on dev environment. Maybe you might need 10 resources, 20 resources, 50 resources, right? You'll first create all the resources as a platform engineer and deliver that to developers. Developers will take care of deploying, using them basically. Okay, once they start, I mean, they will also need some time, right? 3 months, 4 months. Once everything is tested in dev, then they'll come to us asking for setting up QA environment. So only then we should create QA environment. If you create everything upfront, Microsoft will charge us, right? So once everything is done, then only, now by this time, development time takes 3 months or 4 months. So during that time, right, people might leave, and you will also forget what all resources you have created, right? So if you create things on portal, nobody remembers what configurations you have done, right? So that's why automation is really, really important in real world. So there will be many people who will be creating resources, who will be modifying resources. Nobody remembers what was done, how it was configured, right? If there is one simple configuration, everything will go down, right? So code, this kind of automation code will help everybody, right? Because all the configurations are here, and we'll also last in one of our last events, we learned Git as well. I think some of you joined there, right? So this code will be integrated with Git. Okay, everybody has to work with Git. So when you integrate this code with Git, everything is maintained, every change is maintained, and complete history is tracked there. Even if you're 2 people or 10 people or 100 people, if everybody is working with Git, all the history is maintained about all the changes. Collaboration is also possible. Okay, so same code can be executed in different environments. Nobody has to remember anything. So initial development time will be more, maybe 1 month, 2 months, but after that you can create any number of environments just by running the code. You have to write code once, execute it many times. That's the advantage of infra automation. Okay. Yeah, I think that's a quick intro about Bicep. So now I am open for questions. You can unmute yourself and you can ask your questions. Any question, guys?
Yes, Pravin. Good evening. So, what about the converting of ARM template to Bicep? How like it is actually working and how good it is?
Converting of ARM templates to Bicep.
Yes.
Okay. So what is use case? I did not get your point. Your question is related to conversion, but why do you want to convert?
Yeah.
Can you
In
elaborate?
sometime like if we have a ARM template and we wanted to convert into Bicep and then we wanted to deploy it. So,
Mm-hmm.
how good it
Okay.
is? Will it
So
be a good
basically,
practice?
yeah, it's a good practice only, right? Okay, I will explain. I will rephrase your question. So let's say you joined a team recently, okay, and that's a very old project, maybe 5 years, 6 years old project. So when they started, they have written all these templates in ARM templates. Okay, so now they don't have time to convert. They were busy. Existing team was all busy in existing work, but now they hired you because Bicep is a new one. Writing Bicep code is very very easy. They are struggling to maintain ARM templates because it takes a lot of time to make changes in ARM templates. So now it's a best practice to use Bicep. Now the question is how can I convert ARM template into Bicep? That's the question, I guess, right? So it's very very simple. There are multiple ways for this. So to demonstrate that, I need some ARM template, right? So let me go here. And by the way, if you want to get the code of the existing resource, let's say there is no automation at all, people created the resources manually from the portal, now you want to automate it, that's also possible. Okay, go to resource group and search for template. It's at the last, export template. Currently, as of today, the portal gives ARM template for existing resources. Very soon, I think they are planning to um, help us in getting Bicep code as well. But as of today, this template means export ARM template only. Okay, it takes time depending on how many resources. You see, I have only 2 resources, but still it is taking time. If you have many resources, then it will take a lot of time. In fact, it will fail as well. There is a limit. Okay, so let's give it some time. Yeah. So now these are all ARM template. This is so many lines of code. All this is not required, but still it is giving everything. So now how can I convert all this into Bicep? That's the question, right? So it's very simple. Maybe convert ARM. Of course, the new file name must be Bicep. Now I copied it. I'm not pasting it directly. Instead, I right click and then um, paste JSON as Bicep. You see, all the code is ARM template code is converted into Bicep without any problem. Now I can run this. There will be no harm. It will not throw any error. So this is one way of converting ARM template into Bicep. Okay. What is the other way? There is one more way. If you remember in the PowerPoint slides, I showed you Bicep Playground.
Yes.
You can use that as well. So Playground gives us 2 sections. In the left hand side, it's all Bicep. In the right hand side, it's all ARM template. And you can also, it also gives us a lot of templates. You can use this. And yeah, for example, we created web application, right? So maybe this function app. Where is web app? Okay, web app. Maybe Java Tomcat. Select this. So this is the code which you can use to create app service plan. We have done the same thing, this one and this one, same thing we have done from VS Code. Okay. So now you can also use this playground. Now our point was ARM template to Bicep, right? So you can use this button, upload an ARM template. You can read this, upload an ARM template JSON file to decompile it to Bicep. So if I click this, I don't have JSON. Okay, maybe I'll quickly create a JSON. arm.json ARM template that I copied, right? I still have it. I pasted. This is the ARM template that I copied from the portal. So now SQL projects Bicep ARM. Yeah. So right hand side, it's the code that I copy pasted, and in the left hand side it gave us all the ARM template. The same code is even here, 180 lines, and here also it's almost 180 lines. So these are two ways in which you can convert your JSON to Bicep, and of course you can do that from command prompt as well. AZ Bicep decompile command is also there. You can do that as well. Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. Praveen. So one more question, like in Terraform, as we have, like we can validate using the Terraform validate command to uh, validate the script. And in Bicep, do we have any such options to
Let's
validate?
say, so let's say you want to check something, right? So simple AZ Bicep, okay, and then um, validate. If you want to check any syntactical commands, wait, AZ Bicep -h restore, publish, lint, install, format. Even in Terraform, format is there. Okay, so build is there. Build will take care of doing the validation. For example, let's say I'll close all
Yeah.
this. First of all, the tool itself will tell us if there are any problems. Let's say I missed this. Okay, and if it's a large file, obviously we'll miss this kind of small issues, right? So AZ Bicep build. Sorry, build, and then file name you should provide. -f and .bicep. So what is the problem? The string and the line is blah blah blah. Line number 2. Line number 2, there is a problem. Unexpected new line character. So this build will also tell us, and even when you try to deploy, it will also tell you if there are any problems. Okay. Then the other one is, let's say um, in Terraform you have something called as plan. Okay. So let's say you want to preview before submitting. Okay. For example, I want to create one more web application. The same app service plan. Okay. Maybe web app 2. Web app 2. So before submitting, I want to preview what all are getting deployed. So that's also there available. AZ deployment group, blah, blah, blah. At the end, just put -c. -c means confirmation. So it don't submit, it don't do the deployment. It will just show you what are the changes that are going to deploy. How many are going to create for the first time, how many are going to get updated, all that information is shown here, but this is not 100% valid. Okay. So you see things, it says 1 to create, 2 to modify. So there is no changes. Actually, we are not making any changes. We are just creating one new, right? The other 2 are already deployed, but still it says 2 to modify. So Terraform is very matured. Now this is still, it to mature this kind of small things. So now it is waiting. It says these are all changes. You can check all the changes. If you're happy, then press Y and hit enter. Then it will submit the code. Okay. So as I said, Terraform is very mature. You can do many things in Terraform. Bicep is still growing. It's hardly 2.5 years, 3 years now. Okay. All right. Any other questions, guys? Otherwise, I'm done and we can stop it here. Others, any question? No? Okay. All right, guys. Thank you so much for your time. Have a good weekend. Bye bye.
Thank you. Good weekend.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.